Going live on the YouTube. And there we go. Sharon, Dove, Lori, this mic is all yours.
You guys go ahead.
I'm getting an echo completely.
Terrible echo.
All
Dove,
right,
do you
you
have
guys go
Pal
before me.
Talk
I gotta
on?
find out Ruby.
Do you have Pal Talk on?
No, I don't. Well, I'll be right back.
Okay, I'm going to talk now and see. See, there's no echo. Maybe it was Sharon. And Dove, you're muted. You're muted, Dove.
Okay, there's no echo.
Right. Okay, had to be Sharon then. Okay. Well, let me start reading from chapter 31, section 6, recognizing the spirit. You see the flesh or recognize the spirit. There is no compromise between the two. If one is real, the other must be false, for what it is real denies its opposite. There is no choice in vision but this one. What you decide in this determines all you see and think is real and hold as true. And that's something that we have to look at. What is our base for anything that we're experiencing? What is our foundation? What is our foundational thought? Do we actually think that that other person is a person? And if we do, that's our foundational thought. And if we recognize, no, I am mind, everyone is mind, everything is mind, it's all my projection, there is no external objective world, that is the base. And so what I've found is that I can have that solid base of truth in a lot of areas, but where the ego is hooked or the ego is attached to certain things, that'll slide right in there and I completely, totally miss it. And so I mentioned last week that my boyfriend broke up with me, and I am so glad he did, because I can see how I was hooked in and believed in lack, believed in sacrifice, believed in loss, and believed in bodies. And that was the thing that needed to be healed and released, because there was still this thread of attachment there to sex, to bodies, to affection and relationships. And as this says, you see the flesh or recognize the spirit. There is no compromise between the two. And you're right, Dove, all happens for the good. And I knew that when he broke up with me, even though it felt horrible, it felt very painful. And I had to grieve and get out the human side of it, while still recognizing that the human side of me, the ego side, is not real. It's not true. You experience it as real, but it doesn't feel real. And one of the books I was reading from this Unity course I'm taking, Unity Church course, says, is it valid to say the world is not real? And for me, it is. It's totally valid to say the world is not real. In fact, I have to say the world is not real, because that's the only way that I can stay in truth. And what I was recognizing this morning, and I kept being led to this chapter 31, section 6, recognizing the spirit. It was like that little voice prompting me, open that up, open that up. And it was this one little piece that was still making my boyfriend real as a body. And there is no Lori, there is no him. But as long as I was even holding on to that slight little piece, I was in hell. And one of the gifts that was given to me when he and I started going out 6 months ago was in my meditation, it came down into me about, I vow to only see the Christ in you and to only be the Christ with you. And so that's how this relationship unfolded. And every morning I said that. And so many ego things that came up, I'm going, oh, that's ego. No, thanks. But this last piece, of, oh, but I love his body. I love the way he feels. I love that comfort that I feel of being in a relationship and feeling like it was steady and stable. And then bam, broadsided, like he just broke up with me. It's like, what the hell happened? I didn't even know anything was wrong. But that was good, because I had said at the outset, okay, God, I don't know what anything is for. Use this for a holy relationship. Use this to wake me up, as is the only purpose for anything in form. And what ended up happening, and I said to myself, thought, well, if it's not meant to be, it'll just fall off. And it did. It just fell off. And it was like, rip that Band-Aid right off, fast, easy. And I've never experienced a relationship breakup that's been this easy. And it's not because I didn't love him. I mean, how can you? I love every man the same, because it is all the same. It's because the amount of ego attached is less. And it was so good to be able to see, oh, there's ego, let that go. Oh, there's another piece, forgive that. That's not who you are. So coming to see the flesh or recognize the spirit, there is no compromise between the two. When I know that I am mind, in mind and purely mind, and that I'm not even in a body. See, that was the little piece that was still attached. It's like, I still feel like I'm in a body. I still feel like I need another body to hold and to feel comforted by. And I just don't like walking this earth without another body next to me. And of course, there's that line in the Course that says, you really think you're alone unless there's another body next to you. And it was very strong for me. And that piece is gone. That piece is healed. It's like, oh, I see that. That was just like the base, what I was saying, the foundation or the base. It was always this backdrop of, I'm Lori, I'm in a body. And if I don't have a partner, there's just a sense of emptiness, and I can live without it. Of course, I don't need it. I'm fine. And I know it's not really real, but boy, I want that. And that piece is what has been lifted up to be forgiven and released and exposed for the death thought, the loss thought, the sacrifice thought, the rejection thought that it is. So I feel so incredibly grateful that that came up, and that I could see that and know that I'm not even walking in this world. When that is consistent, again, you see the flesh or recognize the spirit, there's no compromise between the two. When that's consistent, and I can say consistently, oh, that's right, I am not even in this world. I do not walk this world. I do not abide in this world or abide in a body. I am home in mind all the time. And then later on in this section, it talks about, well, how can you do that? It says, salvation does not ask that you behold the spirit and perceive the body not. It merely asks that this should be your choice. For you can see the body without help, but do not understand how to behold a world apart from it. That was what I was feeling like. How the hell do I do this? How in the world can I walk this world and not feel these empty, lacking, wanting another body types of feelings? And it says, be not concerned how this could ever be. You do not understand how what you see arose to meet your sight. For if you did, it would be gone. The veil of ignorance is drawn across the evil and the good, and must be passed that both may disappear, so that perception finds no hiding place. How is this done? It is not done at all. What could there be within the universe that God created that must still be done? Only in arrogance could you conceive that you must make the way to heaven plain. So the ego's going, how do I do this? How do I do this? Do I have to meditate all day long so that I can stay in this place? Do I have to decry and disavow everything in the world so I can stay in this place? It's like, no, because again, once you make that decision of, I'm done, I'm just done with all of that pain and suffering, you realize that you never made a decision. And that's the paradox. When you think you're a separate person, there are decisions to be made. And once you make them and you choose truth, you recognize, oh, it just never happened. It was all the projection. It was all the dream. And one of the other subtleties I noticed is that I had been saying, I want to know that I'm the dreamer of the dream. But the way the ego attached to that was still thinking I'm a body in the world, knowing that I'm dreaming. And there is a difference between saying, yeah, I'm walking this world in a body versus I'm not even walking this world in a body. I am totally mind watching the body walk in the world, appear to walk in the world. It's subtle, but absolutely crucial. And that's how the ego gets in there subtly. And so that's what it felt like shifted today. It's like, oh, that's right. Oh my God, I am mind. I am totally mind. And I wanted to keep that, the ego wanted to keep that little piece of the body, wanted to keep that little attachment and stay in hell. And it got exposed and got forgiven and released. And so I'm going to turn this over to you, Dove.
Oh my goodness, Laurie. I wish you would just continue and continue and continue. You're just rolling right along. My goodness. I love the way you see things, look at things, and then recognize that, yes, uh, all things happen for the good, even though at the time I'm wondering why that happened. But yeah, the script is already written, and things just flow perfectly. Yeah, and he was the perfect person for you to have in your life, for you to recognize that you know it isn't a matter of bodies feeling good. It's a matter that I'm in my right mind, and I never really left my right mind. And finding something in this world that will make my body feel good is simply another detour away from my accepting the atonement for myself. Yeah. So all happens for the good. Um, I was looking at my own life as you're talking, and I realized like I went through 40 years of marriage where it was really good being in it started off as a special relationship, but then it really became a holy relationship. And when finally Suzanne passed, my mind was to kind of jump to another relationship. And I went through like a year of searching and doing nothing. And then all of a sudden it came to me, what am I really doing? I actually, I have this space of getting to really know Dove. Uh, there's, I don't have to really know anything that's outside of Dove. I have Happy. He's the perfect happy companion for sure. And actually, I relate with Happy the same as I would relate with any holy relationship. He is a holy relationship. Um, and uh, in truth, you really only have your one self. It's not that I need another self so I can learn about myself. No, that's the ego's idea. Uh, in truth, there's only one self. I don't really need to look outside to find something that maybe I'm missing or I should know more about. Uh, Kind of reminds me, I was listening to Ken Wapnick this morning, as usual. And for the last couple of mornings, the topic that Ken has been speaking about, which thanks to Prudence, she put up on the board at the very end, was the topic, the unexamined life is not worth living, which I just put up in the chat, and maybe I put it in the room for those people in the room. And of course, he took that title from, I believe, from Socrates. The unexamined life is not worth living. But yeah, it whatever is given to you to do, whether you're in a relationship or not, is not the question. You want to look at what is it that this really means to me. And of course, we're going through those early lessons. Nothing I see here really means anything other than the thought that I have that it means something. I think that's today's lesson. My thoughts don't really mean anything. And lately I've been well, actually, I've been going through a period of I'll use the word not feeling well. Last time I was here, I thought it was COVID, but and even though I was not tested, I'm beginning to hear there was a program on a news program yesterday, last night, that actually explains exactly what I'm going through. It seems like right now there has been a rise of both flu symptoms and COVID symptoms, especially among people who took shots. I did take my shots, and they call it COVID weariness. The body has gone through too much and is starting to repeat. Now, the the symptom that they most talk about is a cough, and that's the only thing I have left is a cough, and they describe the cough perfectly. They call it, and it came to me, when I was a kid. I mean, I think an infant, I had whooping cough. Uh, and I said to myself, this almost sounds like whooping cough. So uh, the news program called it the 6-month cough. Well, that's what people who have it are now calling it, the 6-month cough, because it does last a long time. But then he went to explain what the cough actually sounds like, and he gave it a whooping cough sound, and that's what I'm going through. So while I'm going through this, I noticed the rest of my life is falling apart. Uh, uh, I don't read my emails. I don't read my messages. I don't do this. I don't do that. Uh, uh, Experian told me that I lost 21 points on my credit score because I failed to pay something, the car payment. And I said, well, how could that happen? And it seems like all the things that I used to take care of, like it was so important, I don't take care of anymore. And this morning I wake up and said, something, Jesus, please take over my life. I can't handle it anymore. I really can't handle it. Like life seems to be in these modern times, in these modern days, if you don't take care of each and every little thing, you're just going to get knocked into the you're going to knocked into the gutter, and you're going to be remaining there until you get yourself up and out. Nobody wants to do that, so everyone takes care, and then wait a minute. All of a sudden, you can't take care of yourself. How can you take care of all those little things? And your life does fall apart. So, with that as a premise, who wants to live in a place like this, really? So, this morning I said, Jesus, there's a part in chapter 4, section 1. I know that Lynn is very familiar with it. Chapter 4, section 1, at the end of the section, it says, Jesus says, listen, give me all your little trivia. I'll take care of it because, you spend far too much time taking care of trivia. I mean, you're only here for one thing, really. You're here to remember the truth. You're here to remember that you never left home. You're here to remember to accept the atonement for yourself. I mean, that's the only thing that you're really here for. If you think you're here for anything else, that's the ego fooling you. So when Ken Rappi says an unexamined life is not worth living, yeah, if you don't recognize that all the little things that you think that you need to do, kind of little like what you were talking about, Laurie, like, it feels so good. It feels so good. What is it that it feels so good until it doesn't feel good, right? This whole life was meant to fall apart. I think the faster it falls apart, the closer you are to remembering the truth of what I am. And with that, Sharon, I'm going to turn this mic on back over to you.
Okay. A lot of wonderful, wonderful things have been said. I feel prompted to look at what Keith Kavanaugh put it, in his on Facebook today. What I was going to say though is that Ken and Keith are really similar in their teaching. Keith learned from Kenneth. He always says from Kenneth Wapnick, and what I told him was he has this Irish voice that I love. Ken for me is a phenomenal teacher. I mean, I have everything you could, just like Dove has, like I have, and Lori has it too, like his manual, for the journey, for the lessons, for the text. But sometimes he gets into the symphony, and then of course this ego mind goes, oh. So this is going to be a little simpler, but it's the same teaching. The whole point is, and I want to thank Lori for what she shared, because that was absolutely the best lesson you could have learned. That you're not Lori, really. And the loss of this character was actually your gift. And I see that everywhere now. Before I go on, I want to, just kind of tell the truth of what happened on Tuesday night. We were in a group and Lynn had brought I See Only the Past. And right before I went on there, I was sitting there and I was just with spirit saying, geez, all of my life I've been looking at just thoughts of the past. I'm not even present to enjoy my life. And so Lynn then had this teaching the other night that was all about that. And then I will get back to Keith. But when she had that, I kind of thought, well, I know this. Now, what I did know right then and there is the ego's still operating in this vessel. That's for sure. And it's operating, and it's also very subtle too. So when my friend, well, it's a family member that called, and I had asked her to do certain things, and I probably knew in my mind that she had a brain like mine because, she too has ADD. People that have that have a little bit of a challenge when it comes to keeping the thinking mind steady, because that's just the way it is. So, so when she was talking this person to me, I was saying, but you said you would do that. You said that you would do, I told you. Now this is what I did. I became the absolute obnoxious ego. And I saw it. And I went, oh, this probably could be a gift now. Because I went into my husband and I said, I don't believe I just did this. Now he knows I do this work. He's not really interested in any of this except listening to me, kind of. And he started to laugh. I started to laugh because I could really see that the ego is going to ruin your relationships, all of them. That's what it does. Instead, I pulled myself back and said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Now, in the ego, I would have probably said, I would have called up somebody else to tell them what this person did because I was watching their child and I was supposed to have all the equipment. And, of course, an ego is going to say, well, you're right. No, I'm not right. And I called Lynn and I started to tell her. And I said, and I was the ego's still in there, trying to get out of it. You're never right, ever, because this is my dream. So if somebody doesn't show up, they don't show up. If somebody forgets something, they forget something. It's all happening perfectly. And when I fall down that rabbit hole, the one thing that I've learned to do now is laugh. So what Keith had, I'm going to see what comes through me now, because what I know is that we're just these perceivers. We're a vessel of perception. So the perceiving of the right mind or the perceiving of the wrong mind. And the right mind is really just stillness. That's all it is. It's peace. There's no thought there. It's just heaven, really. And remember, God is just a state of mind, right? It's all about, where are you? But what I also learned is that this is happening completely on its own because there was never a me. This is just the dance of grace. So he writes, the story of the workbook lesson so far. The world doesn't mean anything because you made it up. Who made it up? I consciousness made it up, right? It's not real, and God doesn't know about it or therefore have any opinions on any of it whatsoever. It's unreal and nothing more than that. Nothing means anything at all. And that is really where interpretation has really changed in this mind. I'm able to pause, but I didn't pause the other night. Why? Because there was an arrogance in me that I knew it all, but there's still ego. And until I, am not here anymore, I'm going to be a student anyway, because I'm learning constantly. And laughter is the one thing that will absolutely get you through all of your stuff. Now, as the process was unfolding for this mind, it certainly wasn't an easy process, that's for sure. But at the same time, it was very, very gentle. It was a gentle process. The story and the limits of this mind caused this mind to think it was totally insane, because it is when it's listening to the ego. And the reason it's insane is because we're not in a world. I mean, these are smoke and mirrors. There's nothing. It's ephemeral. It's just consciousness, like, just all operating through each vessel. And it's a story in the mind. So once you made the world up as an attack on God, it became neutral. That is the biggest gift you can have. What is neutral? It means it's nothing. There's nothing here but God. I'll say it again. There's nothing here but God. You were talking about, Doug was talking about when he was by himself. And, it's interesting. I know Spirit sent me to Altoona. I know Spirit was in charge of this whole thing. Of course, the ego makes the story up, but it's really Holy Spirit, which is our only, help here, really. The comforter, which is total love. It's love. It's like a love soup everywhere, right? So once you made the world up as an attack on God, it became neutral, neither good or bad, right or wrong, fair or unfair, good or evil. It's simply an illusion, a simulation. Illusions don't mean anything because they're unreal. So I was talking, when Dub was mentioning about being alone, when I got to Altoona, I really got comfortable. It took a couple of years too. But when I got comfortable, I remember walking around and saying, I can't believe nobody can find me. Because the character Sharon was always there for my parents, for my siblings, for my children, and especially my youngest boy who was struggling. And I was brought here to completely get unhooked from a lot of the story. And I was saying to someone the other day that a lot of the undoing really happened from 40 to 49, because that's really when an earthquake came into the mind and just went like that. You're not Sharon. You're going to lose everything. And I did, but I didn't. I didn't lose everything. I got everything, right? And every character in the dream was for me. I'll repeat that again. Every character in the dream was for me. There can't be anyone that's not. Because, right, the purpose is awakening, at least for this mind. Other beings have other purposes. And what I have learned is that everybody's undoing is perfect. And it's not my business to try to say right or wrong to anything. So when I was walking around and, saying nobody can find me, I absolutely loved my own company, okay? I had no one, my children didn't live here. And I had cousins, but I was involved in the 12 steps, and that's where I was meeting people. But wherever I met people in Altoona, they were on the path, whether it be non-duality or the 12 steps, which leads right into non-duality. And I loved my time alone. So I dated different people, but I knew I'm a magnet. Sharon was a magnet for narcissists. I like to fix people. believing I can, absolutely. And also being arrogant to think I need to, right? Well, so, the story of A Course in Miracles is really the story of this mind. This course, the first 5 years before, I guess it was Awakening Together when it changed over, there was more teachings that were coming forth, but I missed the course quite a bit because those lessons, these beginning 50 lessons, are completely done perfectly by the intelligence of the universe. But it didn't say that it's going to do it right away. Of course, it can only happen now. And what Jesus does tell us is we think that it's going to take time, and it doesn't, because time is a concept. However, it's a process of undoing. And I still have stuff in the solar plexus to be undone. It's funny, my crown chakra opened up like 8 years ago. And that was also beautiful because I could sit in that. But it's just now I'm in this I would say omnipresence of light. I still have ego, but there's just been some very, very gentle shifts. And I never even understand how this is all shifted because, a character can't. But what is it really saying? I've never been Sharon. And nothing happened except a story in my mind. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Lori. Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Sharon. I love this. I love sharing with you guys because it's just so much fun. What you were just saying about those gentle shifts, it's true. And it's subtle. It's just subtle to where you can see where in the past you used to think, oh, maybe I'm Sharon or I'm Dove or I'm Lori, who really knows that I'm mind. And then you recognize, oh, that's still hanging on to the ego identity. And it becomes to where you know that you're mind with no ego identity, but it is gentle and it just drops away. And as you were talking, I just had this thing of where I've had this image in my mind of disconnecting the neural nets in my brain. I like how Joe Dispenza talks about the transforming of the brain and pruning away the neural nets. And then you form a new neural net of, truth related thoughts. So I always had this idea of I could see my brain and I'm unplugging these neural nets and then shifting over to just pure mind. Well, what just happened as you were talking was even that thought of I'm unplugging the brain neural nets, that just kind of disintegrated. It dissolved. It's like, oh, I don't even need to do that anymore because that's still thinking of myself as a body, undoing the brain circuits. And it's just like, just let it all dissolve and disappear. And that's the scariest thing to the ego, the disappearance of the universe, where everything you made up disappears. And how many of us want to go back to kindergarten or go back to our tricycles or go back to even our first marriages? Most of us have had more than one, but we think back on that and we don't attach to that. And we don't even care about that anymore. And so our lives, even now, the things that we really care about, those are going to dissolve too. And when we can do these first couple lessons and truly, truly get, like, I can tell that you get it, Dove. I can tell that you get it, Sharon. And most of us who have done this for a while get it, of truly, this thought means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Today's lesson, these thoughts do not mean anything. And at first, when the ego hears that, it's very frightening. It's like, oh, how can that be? But then it's so freeing and you don't want to go back. And Dove, you were talking about that cough and that 6-month cough. And that's something where we have to watch the programming of the ego, programming of the media. So all these people that have this cough now are going to sit there and think, oh, okay, August, or that's when I'm going to be over it. Or if they have it now, it's like, oh, okay, I'll be over it in June or whatever. And it's like, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Time is a concept, like you said, Sharon. It's a concept, and we don't have to accept that belief. And here's the line in, again, paragraph 5 of chapter 31, section 6, recognizing the spirit. But concepts are not difficult to change. One vision clearly seen that does not fit the picture as it was perceived before will change the world for eyes that learn to see, because the concept of the self has changed. And that's what happens. We get these subtle, gentle shifts, and we're moving into a different dimension. And here's the paradox again, where the Course will say, heaven is here, there is nowhere else. God is here, God is all there is. And from the normal, quote unquote, ego mind, we think, oh, okay, God is in all this form. God is here where I think I am in this world. And that's not what it means. God is here. Here is a different dimension. Here is a formless dimension that is right here when we have Christ's vision and we are looking past appearances. And Christ's vision has one law. It sees no one as a body. So it looks past appearances to the light. And that's, so when I used to hear these things of, well, heaven is here, I'm going, the hell it is. It's hell here. You know, it's terrible here. All these bad things are happening here. Look around. And when I had this epiphany of, oh, here is in my mind. Here is not here in the world as we normally think about it. And that's, again, the paradox, where you're living with the body seeing all these forms, but you know that that's not truth, and you know it's not really real. And Dove, you were saying, who wants to live in a place like this? Of course, you don't. We don't. Who wants to live in a place of sickness and death and war and all that? And as you said, Dove, when you've accepted atonement, you realize you're not here. And one of the things you always said before was, how can you find joy in a joyless place unless you know you are not here? And that, again, if we look at it as what's our base? Is our base and our foundation that we think we're here in this world? Because that is what's being shown to me. It's like part of me knew that I wasn't here, and I was like, oh, thank God I'm not here. But my base has always been, oh, yes, you are. You're here, and you are sacrificing because you have to plug and strive and slog your way through the rest of this world until you die. Until, you know, I'm 65 right now. How many more years is it going to be? Is it going to be 1? Is it going to be 5? Is it going to be 30? Slogging my way through this world. That's because my foundational thought was, oh yeah, I know I'm not Lori, but I am still here, damn it all anyway. And that's this concept. Concepts are not difficult to change. One vision clearly seen that does not fit this picture will shift it. And it's like, oh my God, that's it. That's it. I need to be absolutely 100% to the place of, I am not only not a body. Oh, the teacher of God, this is Emmanuel number 12. The teacher of God not only sees that he's not a body, he sees that he's not in a body. And I've been saying that for at least a decade. But what's happened is it's in spurts, or it's in little bits and pieces, like, oh, that's right, I'm not even here. And now it's come to the place of, you darn well better know you are not even here all the time. And again, time's a concept. But stay in that place. And that's why I'm so grateful for this relationship breakup, because it feels like something Jesus said to Bill Thetford about sex. That was the last river you had to cross until you abided completely in the mind of God. And it feels like that to me. Prior to reading that, I had thought, this is my portal to awakening, or being awake all the time, because we are awake. But my portal to abiding in that place in mind, because I could see it right away. It's like, oh, this is a gift. This is my opening. It's the door opening, and or the river being crossed to the other side where you're in the real world. So I'm going to turn it over to you now, Dove.
Okay, that was very clear again, Laurie. Thank you so much. It's wonderful following you and getting all that wisdom. And I say, my God, she made the path very clear, so I could see a very clear path ahead. It was Sharon who said, and I posted it in both in the chat and in the in Gather. Laughter is the one thing that will get you through all this stuff. And that's true because we give meaning to the meaningless. It's that simple. I mean, lesson 1 and lesson 2, which I have said many moons ago, is the entire course. Yeah. Nothing I see here really means anything, but I think that, I'm a person, I'm an identity, and even though I may have said many moons, many times, the only way you can be happy in a world that you made to be unhappy is to recognize that you're not here. Uh, I think I'm here. How foolish, Dov. How could you make that kind of silly mistake thinking that you're here when you read from Jesus and Jesus is your path and he tells you you're not really here. So when am I going to wake up to the fact that I can laugh at it all? That's the only way out of taking anything in this world seriously is a belief that nothing here really means anything. I'm looking at all the lessons that we're going through. I always say the first 14 lessons. Actually, I was going to say uh, uh, to Sharon, tell your son it's the first 14 lessons and then we'll talk. Because lessons 10, my thoughts do not mean anything. He tells you all over again. And then 11, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And a meaningless world makes me afraid. I mean, if it's meaningless, what am I doing here? I'm trying to balance this, and balance my checkbook, and balance that, and make the correct payment at the right time. Kind of reminds me of that Buddhist symbol of putting one boulder or rock on top of another. Uh, they all seem to balance each other out perfectly, but sooner or later, it's all going to come tumbling down. It's just all going to come tumbling down. Kind of like when you built those things when you were a kid with blocks, and then sooner or later someone would knock it down. It didn't matter. Whatever you did didn't matter. You had to start all over again. Isn't that the story that Ken Wapnick loves to tell about Sisyphus, the Greek hero that was rolling a rock up the mountain, and just as he got to the top, it rolled back down, and he started all over again. Uh, you can't keep it all in order in this world because there is no world. There is no world. And the only way out is to recognize that you're doing this to yourself. You actually think you're doing something. There's no you doing anything. There's you thinking that you're going to keep it all together. I'm going to keep it all together. No, I'm sorry. There's nothing to keep together. There's nothing here. It's You're dreaming. I mean, when are you going to say, I'm so glad that I am dreaming? I guess when you're coughing, you can't say that. Anyway, hi, Zoma. What am I going to say? So finally, you get to these lessons. A meaningless world engenders fear. And, he tells you there's only two emotions, love and fear. But as long as you believe in anything in this world, you're engendering fear. It's that simple. As long as you think that you're a body, as long as you think that you got to keep things in order, You got to balance your checkbook. You got to do this. I got to pay this before they report me. Who's they? I know you say, well, Doug, why don't you let's let it all go and just go to a monastery? Well, actually, Ken Rapids was just about to do that. If you recall, you know, he was a good Jewish boy. He actually went to yeshiva, which studied, and then he actually said, "Are you kidding? None of this means anything." And he was going to convert to being Catholic, and was about to go to Israel to join a monastery, when all of a sudden Providence called them and said, "Oh, I have another calling in life." But you basically can't really think that you're doing anything in this world if you think that anything here is real. Uh, what we can recognize is that the Course of Miracles is telling you that nothing you see here means anything. And in case you think anything here means something, you're the one who's making it all up. Those two lessons will take you right to the end, and you can start laughing now. You start laughing now. Over to you, Sharon.
Yeah, that's been my, mantra through life, actually, before I even got to the course. I was always a person that could break out laughing about the silliness of Sharon, and a lot of times seeming others would say, well, she has a good sense of humor, but that's actually given to us to help. When you laugh or you cry, you're getting rid of all these, things that it could even be heavy metals, or it just could be emotions, whatever it is. These things that were put in us, crying and laughter, are actually things that really do work. The problem is the ego thinks it's shameful. And that's because the ego thinks everything we do is shameful. It's funny how, the way I see this whole movie, I've often said it, it's almost like that wicked witch in Snow White is giving me the apple every time. Go have a piece of chocolate, Sharon. Go do this, go do that. That is what the ego does. The ego is constantly moving this body mind to believe there's something good here. And sure, chocolate is very good. It feels good when you eat it, but it's over in a second. So that's pretty much that the ego has done. Like, what do you mean I haven't been here? You're in your thought. Thought doesn't have 60. I'll be 69 on January the 14th. And, it'll be like, wow, I've been here 69 years, but have I? No, I can't have been here 69 years because it's happening in the mind that I'm residing in, which is one mind, right? I mean, can you just imagine this matrix and what it really looks like? No, we can't. As a limited mind, it's impossible to know how this even happened. And the next thing would be, well, it didn't. It didn't happen in reality, right? We're just looking at something, and now we can enjoy the movie and watch how these seeming others are reacting, and not laugh at them, laugh with them, right? Because it's really strange how serious I took this movie. I could blame my parents, but that wouldn't be fair. They weren't there. They were there and they weren't there, right? They were there as a reflection of my mind. But I did take this, and I don't know an ego around that doesn't take it serious. This is serious business here. You better pass all the test or whatever it is, right? And what if is really one of the things that the ego really throws at this mind. What if this happened? And what if that happened? And I was telling my nephew, and yes, I'll tell Josh that he might even come tonight to our group, but I'll tell Josh about the 14th, he'll call you because he's just starting today. And, he had found the course, my nephew, on Facebook from his ex-girlfriend. And, he's going through the normal, crazy, egoic things that we go through. But he's only 31 and he's found this teaching. So we'll see. You know, do I know if he's ready, if the readiness is there? No, I don't. I mean, what I saw in this mind was, I told you, it was like an earthquake. I mean, honestly, from 40 to 50, the character that I played had, I turned 40. I can't wait, right? It's my birthday. I'm going to get separated. And then I find out my ex-husband had a girlfriend. And the girlfriend was older than him. And I have to tell you, at the time, I was pretty young, and I would say Sharon was attractive, but at the same time, it was so interesting how all of this happened, just like a Lifetime movie. So that's truly why when I got to Altoona for about 4 months, I just watched Lifetime, because I was like, God, I mean, come on, I'm here to find God, but right now I got to just watch other people suffer here, because I did go through that. I mean, it was just one thing after another, loss after loss. In the biggest way, I'm blessed as Sharon that my son is living and thriving here, because that was the greatest fear that this character had, was something happening to her beautiful, beloved children. Because I have to tell you, there wasn't a day that I didn't love being a mother. If you know me well, I'm a nurturer, and that's what's falling away a little bit. My dog is like my child. I treat him no different. But at the same time, it's all love. So why would I treat anybody just like poorly? What would love do in the moment? Instead of saying, what would God do? What would love do? That just speaks to the soul. That's what we are. We are absolute love. That's it. There's nothing else. So then somebody would say, well, what do you think? You're God? Well, I'm God's son, which is nowhere does the Father, I'm connected to God as much as God is. And we do create our movie that we have. The movie of the mind is just something that we create, and it's for lessons. And the lesson that I learned the most is I'm lovable. I remember I walked into a group, a therapist, when I was 25. I got hit with such a depression. And after she saw me a couple of times, she said, you don't feel lovable. That was absolutely the biggest gift, because I can see that's what Sharon felt like. And that's the movie I had. Mother takes everything out on me. Husband, thinks I'm whatever, great. And then the next, all the stories of not being lovable. Today, that's all that's here for Sharon is love. And every being on this planet who doesn't know it, they are love. So it's all perfect as always. And the only thing that ever gets in the way is guilt. And Ken Wapnick was right about the way he spoke about the guilt. There's layers of this. So you go easy, a little bit at a time. And I have to say, I'm very grateful that I was given these gifts, in this lifetime. Anyway, over to you, Lori. And I'm just going to say goodbye. I don't know, because it's 9:21. So I don't know if you guys are going to, I'll say, have a beautiful day, everyone, or have a beautiful now. And our lovely Zoom comes on next, and I love her. All right, Laura, it's yours.
Thanks, Sharon. Karen the other day said, happy now, happy new now, happy now. And I loved that, because we break things into increments of time, and it's always now. So happy new now. And just getting back to that concept is the now versus the now is not a concept, but time is. But concepts are not difficult to change. One vision clearly seen that does not fit the picture as it was perceived before will change the world for eyes that learn to see, because the concept of the self has changed. And when we completely let go of the concept of the self, and we realize there never has been a concept of myself, there has never been a separate self. It's all been something I made up. I was thinking about that earlier today, about how a lot of people have difficulty saying the world is not real, whereas I needed to hear that. That was a wonderful concept for me, that the world is not real. But when we experience it and we feel it, it feels so real. And maybe for people that don't like the world is not real idea, it might be easier to say, well, you're making it all up. You're making it all up, which is actually a stepping stone idea, because actually the world is not real, but the ego separate self can't accept that. But it sometimes not, the ego doesn't accept it, but it's a more stepping stone, gentler thought to say, well, you're making it all up. You're making it all up. And again, that subtle yet crucial difference is, oh yeah, I'm a person that's making it up, versus, oh gosh, I'm not even a person. Or that even that I'm mind making up that I'm a person, but even letting go of that and just going, I'm mind. I don't even need that I made up a person, because that's the past, and that's the past that dissolves and disappears. And this next paragraph in chapter 31, section 6, paragraph 6 says, are you invulnerable? Then the world is harmless in your sight. Do you forgive? Then is the world forgiving, for you have forgiven its trespasses, and so it looks on you with eyes that see as yours. Are you a body? So is all the world perceived as treacherous and out to kill. Are you a spirit, deathless and without the promise of corruption and the stain of sin upon you? So the world is seen as stable, fully worthy of your trust, a happy place to rest in for a while, where nothing need be feared, but only loved. Who is unwelcome to the kind in heart? And what could hurt the truly innocent? And I've leaned on this paragraph a lot, like, oh, okay, well, the light has come. I have forgiven the world, lesson 75. So the world is going to be friendly, and it's going to be a safe place in which to rest a while. And my biggest proof of that was being placed down in this resort during the world pandemic. All expenses paid. I got to be in this beautiful place, warm weather, wonderful Course in Miracles people, and it just happened. And so, but that's still, again, the subtle thing of, I still felt like I was Lori, who was protected from the world. I was a body in the world being protected from the crazy chaos of this pandemic. And the greater protection, the truth is, not only am I not a body, I'm not in a body, and it never happened. So again, these subtle shifts in perception and these changes in vision where you go, oh, wow, it never even happened, and it's not even happening now. And I am mind, but even saying I am mind is a concept. When you can go into that silence and that stillness and what appears dark and empty, but it's also totally full and light, and you're just resting there, and there's no concept, not even an I, because I still think that the I is a concept. To me, the I is still a concept. And I know that all these spiritual paths say, it comes down to I, it comes down to I am. But I love how Nisargadatta Maharaj says, even the I am is a concept, and it's not true. So just resting in that place. Well, words cease, right? I can't even speak. So I'm going to turn this last 2 minutes over to you, Dove.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you come up with a word, you're already into a concept. And I was listening to Sharon saying, when you love, you really love all. How could love leave anyone out? I mean, as Ken Wappy says, if you're really walking with Jesus, you've got to take everyone with you. You can't leave anyone out, because that's walking with love. The word Jesus is just another word for love. So, I mean, the same for the word God. God is just another word for, so God sees all as one and the same. And I was thinking, I live here with my dog Happy, and as most people know, dogs love you no matter what happens. You can come home late, and they just say, "Oh, thank you so much for coming home." There's no one there that says, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You couldn't have done. You could have done it differently." No, I'm happy, having a happy companion. The most happy companion you can have is one that sees you as yourself. We are one. God's will for us is perfect happiness. Thank you so much, Laurie, Sharon. Thank you all for listening, for joining in, everyone, and gather. Lynn, Glorian, turning this mic on over to you, Zuma and Lynn. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you guys so very much. Wonderful sharing.